What's up, everybody? Carmen Disco here with Launch Network. We got another one for you. I know you're waiting. You're thinking about it. You're like, what the heck is going on? I have Mr. Christopher Guerrera, made in America, the man himself. Chris, what's happening, my friend?
What's happening, Carmine? So I'm back in South Carolina, right? We had a great visit with Tom Kelly down in Disney. So I'm back home, and today we got the boss on. We'll get into that in a minute. That's his nickname, the boss.
And it's not who you think.
What was last week with the USA MAGA runs and parades? No, it's not that. We don't do any politics on this show. Other than Made in America. We love Made in America products.
Very cool, man. So funny, so great. Well, our guest is definitely a man who knows about manufacturing. But first, I want to get to Chris, man. You're all over the place, dude. You're traveling all over. You're visiting people all over the country. What's going on with some of your products?
Yeah, so I'm heavy into retail now. You know that, right? I've got all these products. The Tidy Hook especially was a long run. So that's now heading into Walmart. I got some big news coming up next month. I can't really share it right now, but some really big news. It's going to be even a lot more fun to talk about that when I can. And I'm pitching again to Walmart. I have another open call for Made in the USA, and I'm in the process of that now. So we'll just keep pumping. It's that time of the season when you need some ticks removed.
Oh, yeah, man.
Guess what, baby? I got one.
Yeah.
Guaranteed for life.
That's
Tick
awesome.
remover.
That's really cool. I got a couple products for you when you go do that pitch. Maybe I'll send them up to you.
Send them to me,
pen.
definitely.
My pen could be. I think I showed you my pen. That could be one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put it on a sell sheet and send it to him. Definitely.
Cool. All right.
So let's introduce our guest today. He's got a couple products we're going to talk about today. They're not made in the USA, but that's okay because that's what we want to talk about. The difference is, and one of his products can easily be made in the USA. Let's bring him on, Dimitry, the boss.
Hey guys, how are you? Good to see you.
Up?
What's happening, buddy? Hey, where are you located? Where are you doing this interview from?
I'm in Bergen County, New Jersey.
New Jersey, that's right. So how's the weather? It's getting a little warmer, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's it's definitely heating up a little bit. Winter was pretty torrential, but we had some big massive snowstorms. But you know what, man, summer's around. Everyone's gonna have a good time. It's a lot of fun. Love the area. With COVID hopefully going away, we'll have somewhat of a normal summer. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah, I'm from that area, right? I'm up from I grew up in Waterbury, Connecticut, but I lived in New Hampshire for a long time.
I went to Bridgeport, University of Bridgeport.
Oh yeah, okay, so right.
When it was a real school and it wasn't.
Before it was ghetto?
Well, no, it was always ghetto, but Reverend Moon bought it. I don't know if you know this, but Reverend Moon bought the thing and it went all over. Who the hell knows? I was gone by then.
Yeah, it's like Waterbury. Waterbury looks totally different now. My mother would tell me stories of how beautiful it was. And when I grew up, it was pretty nice, but now you go back, it is absolutely ghetto. No question about it when you're down there.
Yeah, no, listen, I'll tell you what, when my kids are freshmen, they're going to be going into college. When they're done, who knows? Maybe I'll move down. I'll become your neighbor.
All right. Well, look forward to that because you'll love it down here. It's booming and weather's pretty nice. You get some real springs,
cool.
You get real falls, and you get extremely mild winters. I think the two, it's kind of ironic. The two worst nights of winter here, right. My son was down here from New Hampshire. So on Christmas, it was 19 degrees, but next day it's 50. And on Super Bowl Sunday, we had a half inch of snow. That's pretty much melted within a couple hours. But I told him he's not allowed to come down anymore. Every time he comes down, it's cold weather and snow.
Funny, Jersey broke a record. I think it was 31 inches in a single thing back to like 1890 something. It was
wow.
30 inches too, because my snowblower's auger, isn't that big. I'm sitting there shoveling the top part off just to use the snowblower. But nevertheless, that's not water.
For any of you people that live, in the nice warm weather I do, a snowblower actually moves snow out of the way in case, and the auger is a thing that spins, but, we don't even know what a snow shovel is, let alone a snowblower.
You're in Florida, right?
Oh, yeah, man. Clear water.
Clearwater, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't miss that weather. I can tell you that honestly. I do not miss that weather. All right. Let's talk about you, the boss, Mr. Dimitry. Let's talk a little bit about your products. Let's start with, how did you get started? You got some pretty cool products. I've got one of them in my hand, of course. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have a lot of light here.
You can talk about that. You want to talk about that one first?
Yeah, but let's talk about how you got started. How did you get started? You know, you're in a business and profession. You got into the inventor world. Let's talk about how that started, and we'll get into your products.
Sure. Well, listen, I'm like anybody else. I watch TV. We won't name names, but there's tons of shows out there that are entrepreneurial and inventor based. Started getting my juices rolling again. I was pretty creative. I created my workout machine actually back in college, if you believe it or not. I took some blueprints and stuff like that, threw them on a shelf for the better part of 20, 25 years. Those shows came around, got my juices going. I pulled it off.
Hey, Dimitry, I don't want to cut you off. When you went to Harvard, did you stay in the dorms there or?
Harvard, I would love to. Harvard, I went to Bridgeport, which was basically a pit. So yes, did I stay in the dorms? Yeah, we locked them down. We had machine guns because it was in the second worst ghetto in the United States called Father Panic Village.
He played lacrosse at Harvard and Yale.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I was the sneaky guy. I snuck in there and snuck out without anybody catching me. So, no, but anyway, so the entrepreneurial thing I always had, the idea of inventing, I always saw things and said, look, I can do this better. My friends used to call me up whenever they would get something in the mail and they could never put it together, which tends to be often. I'd walk in there and I'd be like, yo, but listen, this thing's upside down. Can't you see? And so it just kind of came naturally to me. But like I said, I was watching these shows, got my juices going. I blew the dust off of the products. And I said, you know what, just like everybody else, let me go get a patent, right? Got to protect this before I start showing it to everybody. We can discuss whether that was a benefit or a hindrance, but talk about that a little bit, because that's not an easy process either. People think they apply for a patent and then, 6 months later it's in their lap. That could take 3 years. Not only that, but what happens is you start this time bomb that you don't realize. So if you do a search, right, and the search comes back, you basically have a year in which you have to get a provisional patent started. Otherwise, the information becomes public and nobody can ever get a patent again. So the provisional patent protects you for the next up and coming year. So you can make, presentations to anybody. You can decide what you want to do. You really can't change very much in the provisional patent. You can tweak it a little bit, but you can't add some kind of total new element. So when that year comes to fruition, you now have to spend some money and you have to exercise a non-provisional patent. So the non-provisional patent is really what everyone applies for, and that's the waiting period. All right. So once you apply for the non-provisional patent, it can take up to 3 years to get it. You can expedite it by paying about $1,500 to put it what they call through the superhighway, which goes from about 3 years to a year and a half. But when you do the non-provisional patent, you now need to tell the international community whether you have intentions on going public with that and wanting to protect it worldwide. So that's 18 months. If you don't do it in 18 months, you're screwed. Now, 18 months comes by, you might not even have the patent accepted and issued in the United States. And now you have to make a guess. Hey, look, am I going to get this patent issued? If so, is this going to be a worldwide thing? And then what countries and regions do you want to then apply for? So let's just say you apply for China, because China makes sense. You want to apply for Europe. You still don't get your patent issued in the United States. And in the year anniversary that you apply, Europe charges you a maintenance fee. So now you're paying maintenance fees on an international patent that you may not even get granted. So it is a very expensive, long, drawn-out process, and your patent agent or patent lawyer is pretty important. And I've seen patent ranges from $3,900 up to $17,000 for the same product. So unless you're made of money, man, you need to shop that around a little bit and choose somebody that's going to do you right.
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about that. We got a patent on the tidy hook, right? We got it in China, Europe, and the US, and the fees are incredible. And we're not selling anything in China right now, but we're still paying all these fees. Then you got trademarks, design patent, utility patent. It just, the fees are insane. Absolutely.
It really is. You talk about I'm doing a couple things. I'm trying to license one product and I'm trying to venture the other product, and both have different nuances. And when you license it, there are a couple of fees that come up, that you have to do. But venturing it, you might as well just realize you're establishing and starting a brand new business. I mean, from start to finish, and you are going to get the crap knocked out of you. And every single day, you try to just do a timeline, right? You try to get things done, and basically you get knocked off your course. And I like to say that basically when you do this, you're just trying to get back to center. Every single day you have something in front of you and nothing goes smoothly. And if you're prepared for nothing going smoothly, then you're at least halfway in the right mind frame.
At least your expectations are real. I've got people thinking, you know, how fast they're going to go from a napkin design to retail, and it's not even in the same, you know, stratosphere. It's completely off the track.
It's not.
All right, so patents. So you did some work on patents. We talked a little bit about that. Now let's talk a little bit about, you know, you start getting involved. You start liking, like you know, the inventor world, right? You started to tinker around, and you came up with a couple of products. So what was the aha moment? Let's talk about the Genie comb, right? You came up with an aha moment. It's a pretty cool product. That's one I was showing earlier.
Yep.
It's
Find the
you know,
original.
it's got some pretty cool characteristics, but there's a lot you want to talk about here because it's got some you know, and again, I always joke around with this. It's a woman's child, I guess, girl's product developed by the boss, the man.
So this product that you're talking about right over here, which is basically an arts and crafts kit, but the general premise behind this product is it's a hair accessory that comes in two parts. The base comb, which goes into your hair, which creates the ponytail, and then blank covers or covers that you can then create personalized designs. And the covers simply slide on and off the base cone like this. Here, I'll show you this one right here. This is the
I love this product, by the way. It's awesome.
Right? Opens it up. It's got the little tiny things in there. So it snaps in. This creates the ponytail. Covers simply slide on and click into place. All right. I like to think of these covers as blank canvases to pretty much advertise anything. So while you're looking at an arts and crafts kit, realize that that's just a delivery system. You make that base cone, let's say all of Disney's original characters from the 1970s. And now the covers can be all the latest movies like Frozen and Pocahontas and Little Mermaid, you know, and it's just as simple as that. You can take that base cover, make it the American flag, and then you can put sports teams on it. So I'm from the New York area. So let's talk about the New York Giants. Well, maybe we could, or the Mets, you know, the Jets.
Oh, Yankees, no Mets, Yankees.
Yankees go. There you go. Yankees, number one. So that product, actually, it's very funny because the original product was called Lacone. And back in 1987, my father was involved with it, in which they ended up selling that to Macy's and Bloomingdale's because it was a little bit of a higher end product. And they ended up selling 85,000 units in an 18-month period for about $1.2 million. And back then, $1.2 million is probably closer to $3.5, $4 million. So how I came up with my aha moment, and I'm so pissed at myself because I don't seem to have the original in front of me, which I wanted to show you because you could see that it's dated. It looks like cracked marble, right? So it's outdated. So I ended up taking a piece of paper, wrapping it around, trimming it off, starting to draw little, like, you know, bonsai trees and things of that nature as it was around. And I'm not sure why, but I ended up turning it over and the cover slipped off. When the cover slipped off, that was my aha moment. I was like, oh my God, interchangeable covers on a base cone, blank canvases, you can advertise everything and anything. And it just went from there. So every single time I talked to somebody, they were like, hey, did you think about doing this with high-end fashion? Did you think about doing this, you know, with an arts and crafts kit? So that kind of developed over the period of about 3 to 6 months. And then I decided to contact my Chinese factory and say, listen, guys, you're going to get me a bunch of these samples, these 3D samples, but let's talk about molds and products. So now I have 2,000 store ready made units that are samples, and I'm trying to license this product because there's just a trillion different things that you can do with it. So I actually have my claws a little bit into Mattel. And the reason why I want Mattel is because, as you can imagine, if I can get Barbie, that's a hit and a home run for everyone. So let me just back up a second and say, so why Barbie? Because somebody came and said, well, why don't you make these hair cones for dolls? And I said, well, that's a great idea. Now with the Barbie doll comes in a kit that has 4 or 5 different outfits. Right next to that could be a whole Genie cone line where the Genie cones are doll size and the outfits match. And in that same kit, you can get a human size Genie cone. So for the first time, a young girl can actually match and wear what her Barbie doll is wearing. So I like that. And when I'm trying to pitch the CFO, I'm going to talk to him about the idea of increasing his margin, acquisition of a customer for an entirely different product at $0. And now when this girl is into her, you know, teenage years and some heartthrob, this and that is on, and she wants to put that cover in her hair, they have a new customer that didn't cost them a dime. So this product is applicable to everything. And then I have developed it into a fully functional LED version, which I don't think I've shown you. So if you just give me one quick second.
I can see this being like Disney and DC Comics and Marvel.
Yep.
Marvel's big right now.
So in the Disney parks, hold on one second. In the Disney theme parks, my thought is that I have this product here, which is pretty cool. Okay, and this is a complete LED version. I'm going to bring it up close because it bleeds, but you can kind of see the colors. So this right here is definitely a winner for the parks. They actually go at night during the dusk and dawn. They go out with all these carts that have all these little LED gizmos that people wear. And as you walk through the park and you get close to certain buildings, you know, the Wi-Fi signal makes the color schemes change. So you can do that with it as well. This would be great for electronic dance music or raves. And then when we have concerts is my biggest reason for putting this together. So think about having a concert in which call her Ariana Grande. She has this in her hair with all of her dancers, and as the music is going and these cones are beat bopping back and forth, and every girl in the audience that has one of these is now going to be able to participate because their cones are going to start flashing with the music. So it becomes a situation where you know, public venues and you know, people participation is, I think, a very big.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I absolutely love it. I do. I think you're onto something here. So let's talk a little bit about. So you're making that in China, I believe, right? So we'll take each product separate, but this is a good one to talk about. Let's talk about the positive and the negatives, right? Nothing is ever easy when you launch a product. Now being abroad adds a whole nother element. I mean, you know, I do all my stuff in the US, and there's a reason for it. And I have the background and the plant to eliminate the waste and the cost. So I'm pretty competitive. So let's talk about that a little bit. This was developed. You went to China and had it produced. Let's talk about the next steps of what happened.
Well, you know, you mentioned the pros and the cons. There's only one pro to China, and sometimes it's not even really a pro, is that the cost sometimes can be gotten at a much cheaper rate than what can be in the United States. And we can talk about that. So let's take this product, for example, the arts and crafts kit, which I'm going to bring up here. I want you to see for again, because the arts and crafts kit isn't just the base coat and the covers, but it comes with markers. It comes with stickers on there. Along with a bungee cord, and it comes with a little bit of a tool that helps you put the thing in. So this entire package is $3.10, manufactured in China, okay? But you still got to get it from China to the United States. So the logistics costs money. Tariffs now cost money. Clearing and processing costs money. Getting it off the docks to the warehouse costs money. So when you take all those elements, let's call it $3.50. I think you can make this product here for $3.50. And there's a trillion pros to it. The only pro in China is if you can get it manufactured for cheaper. The language barrier is a con. The time difference is an enormous problem. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they want to know if something is blue or white. So they send me an email. I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I see the email. They're already home. So I say, make it blue. Send it out. A whole day goes by because now it's 7 o'clock at night and it's 7 o'clock the next day in the morning, and they get to the factory and they say, guys, we want this blue. Well, what shade blue do you want? Ask them. What shade blue do you want? Next thing you know, it's almost 24 hours later. So one question can take up to 4 days to answer.
Boy, and Carmine, we spent a lot of time on this exact subject, and not me saying it's a fellow who's been working that and living it. And then I always talk about this, Dimitry, right? Think about this as retail. So you have to build, I build to order pretty much. We have a plant that can do quick changeovers and build inventory pretty fast. And again, depending on how many cavities you have, right? But think about this in the retail space. So if you're making it in China, it's going to take what, 90 days? Some people say 120 days. You have to pay for it ahead of time.
Yep.
You pray and hope there's no quality problems when it lands, right? So now you get it to the warehouse, it's 120 days, you already paid for it, you're out of cash, you have to have enough inventory to have it in a crate to make it feasible for shipping.
Yep.
Then you have to turn it around and ship it to Walmart or to retail. They don't pay for 90 to 120 days. You're out of cash for 6 to 8 months, literally 6 to 8 months.
No question about it. Now, this product over here, I actually have 575 units delivered. Now, I sent them a deposit check by wire transfer in the last days of August. We desperately said we want to launch this right after the presidential election. We're not going to do anything before the presidential election. August went by, September went by, you know, long and short is January 18th, they were like, we're ready to ship. So it came here, and if you know anything about Long Beach, California, half the workers are out with COVID. So when you go take a look at the ocean line, the beautiful ocean line, you see tankers parked every 500 yards just waiting to get in. So the long and short is it took 4 months to get what was promised me in 2 months. It took an inordinate amount of time to get it off the ship. I got it to the 3PL, which is the third party logistics, or the warehouse fulfillment center for people who don't know. It got brought in, palletized, and now we're ready to start selling. So 5 months down the line, I finally got product. In the United States, we could have had that product if it was possible to be made, shipped as it was being made. So the first 200 come out, ship them. The next 100 come out, ship them. In China, you got to fill an entire container, and they don't let that go until the check clears, right? So they want their money. You got to do it blind. You come in, all of a sudden your product gets to the United States, and guess what? There was a major problem with one of my products with this workout machine. There was a removable pin that was meant to be there for adjustment, and they soldered the thing in. It was unbelievable. It was totally garbage. So now I'm paying my warehouse to open up each box, do quality control, break that pin off, and we got China to manufacture another 1,000 pins and drop ship it to us so that we could do it. Now they put it back together. And the customer, I'm thinking to myself, well, listen, people are going to get pissed off because the customers are going to say, this has been opened. So how do we combat that? It's all about figuring out how to combat things. So I was like, listen, you're going to put a form in there, inspected, approved and certified by Best Delivery. So this way I took a oh, look at this. Box is open. Oh man, it's been certified, it's been approved, and it's been inspected. That makes me feel good versus bad, right? But I will tell you that China can definitely be a hard thing to do with, especially the language barrier.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, right? Here's a point I want to focus on a little bit. You were one of the lucky ones. You get a quality problem like I had with a tidy hook, right? Everyone probably knows a tidy hook by now.
Sure.
But I have a product that we thought about early on. My partner was going to go to China, and it was about $100,000 to bring this over. This clip, there's a lot of detail, a lot of work went into that clip. We had $100,000 worth of inventory, and then the first go snapped.
Oh.
You're out of business. So when you have a quality problem, what do you have? You have two choices. You get to do a rework. That's why I say you were one of the lucky ones. You got to rework it, or you're out of business. Your product's no good. Can't use it. You have to run another whole batch. You can't fix. This is a clip that snaps onto a headrest. You can't fix it, right? It's flexible. We did a lot of finite element analysis, a lot of work in the tool. We ended up on site fixing that problem on the original material in 2 hours. Because I was there, we were able to run more material. It's instant. Then we were able to do the test right afterwards. 2 days later, we're good to go. Then, you talk about lead times. I've talked about this on the show, right? We had a 2-week window to get this into Walmart. No graphics, no label. I didn't know the resin. I had a tool. I didn't have the silicone pads, which are critical to the operation. Everyone thought I was crazy. I came back from Walmart. You guys said, yeah, but the window is going to be 2 weeks. If you can do it, we'll put it in 400 stores. We did it. I had to get packaging done. Everything takes 6 to 8 weeks. Typically, we did all of it and shipped it in 2 weeks.
That's pretty impressive.
Would not have been possible, right, to do that if you're coming from abroad.
Well, not only that, but let's take this into consideration. I had to pay my warehouse in order to open up the box, put this all in there and close it. Now, $6 a box is a pretty good deal because it takes about 12 to 15 minutes to do it. And they talk about $35 an hour for their warehouse workers. So they were doing me a solid. Well, you take 500 plus units at $6, that's $3,000 extra that I had to spend to undo somebody else's mess up. And the thing that kills me is that piece that was there, that was broken, they manufactured this for me years ago when I did my Kickstarter campaign, and they fulfilled those orders, and it was right. So somehow what was right, when they redid it, turned out to be wrong. They were apologetic, but the apology didn't pay my $6,000 fee that it's going to take me to undo that mess. So,
yeah, Dimitry, I come out of the corporate America, right? We spent a lot of time. I did a lot of work with Toyota and Toyota Gosei on a dampener for the Camry. So it was a dampener that sat in the steering wheel, I took the vibration out of the steering wheel from the road. I mean, I'll tell you the what you said, the language barriers. I mean, I can remember visiting their plant. Now I'm using a hydraulic test matrix to determine the types of bumps in the roads. It's all programmed. It's consistent every single time. There's a frequency wave you're trying to hit. When I get there, I can't find the guy doing it. He's out on break. I mean, this is like big deal, right? In Toyota.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be on break when you're trying to prove your test against my test. Then they got a guy with, I'm not kidding, with a hammer that banging on the side of the unit to get into the right frequency. They're trying to tell me that was more precise than my MTS hydraulic controlled, computer controlled program, which gave you the exact same test every time.
Crazy. It is crazy.
But I had to fly out there to prove it, show them my curves. They're trying to show me theirs. And after meeting with them, I'm like, okay, I don't care what language you're speaking right now, but this is over. Clearly, my test is better. It needs to be in the spec. And they did. They agreed, but it wasn't an easy task. But think about the amount of time, like all of that. Like you talk about that.
Listen, you bring up a really good point. One of the things that you have to think about is CAD files, right? If you have somebody that helps you design really, really, really good CAD files, that's half the battle, because the engineer overseas that's really, really diverse and understands it, you don't have to speak. He wants to know what the thread count is to a screw. He opens up the CAD file, uses a tool, and it tells you the thread count of the screw. So just like when you build a house, the foundation being solid, the house goes up if you have a mechanical engineer who's designing it properly. The same thing goes with CAD files. If they're shit, excuse my French, you're going to have a world of problems. If your CAD files are good, you got half the battle. And thank God for Google Translator, because without it, you would never be able to talk. I mean, I send these people information and they come back with me and you can tell it's choppy English, but without having that Google Translator, China would be, I just can't imagine how they did it in the 80s and the 90s before the internet. I can't either. You know, so I mean, really good points. All of our listeners need to understand it's not an easy task to launch products. We're talking about licensing after. Licensing is a different path. It has its own issues, but launching a product is not easy. And I think one of the things that I think about Josh Malone on his Bunch of Balloons, when he did his license, he was on our show. The one thing that caught me was he didn't just jump at the first offer. He was really selective and found the right partner. And that got him through that whole issue of being ripped off. I mean, he had somebody really backing him and funding it. And it was his decision early on that helped him win a life battle. So, I mean, I think it's very important. You got to make the right decisions up front. Let's talk about Twistacore, which is pretty cool. I'm into working out, and I heard a story that you developed this when you were in college. And so let's talk about that. It's a cool machine. Yep. All right. So basically, I was into abs, as everybody is. You know, they say that abs. Whether
I'll show you my six pack if you want to see it.
Yeah. Well,
it's in the refrigerator.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My six pack. I graduated. Now I have a keg. All right. So that's the way I look at it. One big keg. All right.
My six pack's in the fridge.
There you go. It's 5-pack right after the show. So yeah, no, Twistacore, I you know, it was very funny because when I was in college, you know, working out, doing my thing, I was trying to get in shape like everybody else. And I found that when I was working out my stomach, you know, I wasn't able to get sore in all aspects and areas, you know, so I had to call my friends. Hey, John, Steve, come over here. I want you to hold my legs. Let me do this. Let me prop myself up. Okay, finally, I have the right angle. And then I would feel sore, you know, in an area that you normally wouldn't. So when you do sit-ups, you think about sit-ups, right? Traditional, it's the front part of your stomach. When you do like, you know, the oblique crunches where you roll your knees over and you do the side, you know, that's, you know, 90 degrees. So you have to zoom 0 to 90 degrees. What about those 88 degrees in between that nobody concentrates on? So, you know, I was pretty smart, you know, believing that math always was a way to guide you. So I created a system that allows you to place yourself in 15-degree increments, lock it in, put your feet in, adjust your body so that your head of the muscle now is hit in the proper fashion. And sure enough, within using this machine, within a matter of 2 or 3 days, man, I was sore and couldn't believe it. So what I did is I said, well, how can I bring this to market? You know, the machine by itself was a small little unit, and I did a Kickstarter campaign. It was successful, but there wasn't enough meat on the bone to try to bring it to market because people weren't willing to spend the dollars that were necessary in order for everybody to do it. So what did I do? is I took that machine and I bundled it with a current mainframe machine, and then I advanced it even more. I said, well, what if I pin the seat up at the front? Now I can simulate doing slant board sit-ups, right? What if I raise the front legs and I do the ab coaster kind of exercises where you're kind of doing knee ups? So what I ended up doing is creating a machine that bundles 4 machines into one, concentration with, you know, development on core. And then I included some bungee bands so that we could advertise and talk about general overall body toning. So this is a machine that actually is really at the right time, because with what happened with COVID, everybody is stuck. And even if you can go to a gym, nobody wants to wear a mask. So
That's me. I canceled my membership just because of that. I can't run or work out in a mask. I just can't.
It's also not healthy too, because you're breathing in your carbon dioxide, which is, you know, somewhat starving your brain out of oxygen, right?
I mean, so I don't know if you noticed, my bicep might be getting a little bit smaller these days. I've been doing more running.
All right, the bicep's getting small, but the stomach is growing.
Well, Chris, he's also lifting all that money he's making.
There you go.
Going to the bank.
That's pretty funny. So, you know, yeah. So no. So anyway, so I ended up wanting to do this, and I ended up taking, you know, the route of trying to get a sample and trying to do it. But you know what? Everyone wants to feel and touch it. So I can't send them this sample that weighs 65 pounds. So I ended up going and doing the tooling and really jumping in with both feet. And, you know, I'm venturing this product. What will this product look like in 3 or 4 years? We hope that either I'm going to be successful with it, or maybe I can prove concept and I can license it to one of the big players and they can really promote it. So,
boy, key word there. I have to stop you. Key word: proof of concept.
Yep.
Man, I don't hear that nearly as much as you need to hear it. Really, I love that you said that.
Well, think about it. Who's going to say, yeah, listen, I'm going to dump $1 million. You sold none? You know, one of the things that's funny, we talked about these shows that, you know, that are on TV, and I wanted to apply for them. And I got, you know, into the second round and the third round. And every time the money thing came up.
You can say it. Shark Tank. You can say it.
Like
Shark Tank. Shark Tank.
Right? So I ended up going on Shark Tank. And the first thing they want to know is, can you talk? You know, they don't even care about your product. It's a show. It's a television. Entertainment first. 100%. So once they realized that I was able to do it, they said, well, now put together a 10-minute video and fill out this huge form. And I did that. And they were like, okay, let's talk about sales. And I said, well, I'm pre-sale. And it's almost like click.
Yeah.
You don't want to bring it down. There are some people who come on the show that don't have sales, but the majority of the people have.
It's changed now too, Dimitry, right? Back in the early days, it probably was more forgiving to not having sales as it is now.
Yeah,
now they want to see a lot of information.
100%. They want to know. Listen, what they want is gravy. They want all the risks to be mitigated. They want to come in after you've done your blood, sweat, and tears. 3 years in, you know, every single possible thing that can go wrong does. And now you have a smooth operating running machine. And they want to give you money and maybe make a couple of phone calls. They don't want to get into the trenches with you. And I don't necessarily blame them, because as you grow and you have many different businesses, you know what the biggest commodity is? Time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all each got the same 24 hours in the day. What are you going to do with your 24 hours? And can you handle another responsibility? So I tell you that if I could wave a magic wand and maybe do it all over again, I don't know if I'd venture this. I would probably spend the additional monies to get 10 samples and say, okay, let me see if I could do something with people and take less of a percentage. But you know what? You made the point. Nobody even wants to talk to you until you've proven this out in the marketplace. So for example, this Genie cone here, this thing here, we don't have very many sales, but we have a history. I legitimately have, and I have the paperwork that shows that 85,000 units went to Macy's and Bloomingdale's, and they sold them all in an 18-month period, which consisted of 2 seasonal, you know, opportunities with Christmas. Why didn't it go further? Because the company that my father was doing business with, this was his tertiary company. I mean, this was the 3rd company that he was involved with, and he was doing somebody a favor because they were in Italy and they didn't have the backbone here, and he was able to do it. You know, it's not glorified, but my father, you know, his business was in horse apparel, you know, and he grew his business to be the 3rd largest in the world and ended up selling to a company called Miller's, right? So totally unrelated to the fashion, but his job was to be, you know, the warehouse, the shipping, and all these other things. But the truth of it is that Macy's was really very hesitant to even meet with us because there was no proof of concept. You know, this was sold on a pegboard without any advertising. And Macy's actually came back and said, look, you guys moved 85,000 units. That's $1.27 million in 1987. Let's continue to do it. My father's like, oh, sorry, we closed it up. We're moving on to something else. And he didn't really want to be bothered because he was obviously successful with his own thing. So I kept the original unit, brought it to college. All the girls loved it. And I literally threw that on a shelf. And like I said, Shark Tank came around and I was like, you know what? There's a viable product that has proof of concept. How do I make this and re-energize this and make it new? And we described my aha moment, which was, turning it over because it was outdated and the cover falling off. So I ended up now having a fully issued design patent in the United States. I have, for the LED version, a fully issued utility patent. That is also worldwide patent pending in China, Hong Kong, Japan, Europe. The Twist-A-Core is patent issued in the United States with 17 claims of protection for the utility patent. It's issued in China, it's issued in Japan, and it's issued in Europe. It's patent pending in Canada. Now remember this, patent pending in Canada, 4 years later, it's still not issued. Okay. And I said to him, I go, guys, what are you waiting for? All of Europe issued it. China issued it. Japan issued it. The United States issued it. What are you going to find that these 4 countries didn't find? Right. So my point is, proof of concept, which is what you described, is tough because in order to get proof of concept, you need product. And in order to have product, you got to make the commitments for molds and those things. So if you can do it in the United States, I'm all for it. For example, I really believe that this cone, me and you can work on this and get this cone manufactured for 10 or 15 or 20 cents more than what it is in China. And that will be offset by the logistics and just the sheer time. That Twist-A-Core is a tough one because I don't want to talk about the price in China because I'm actively selling it. But let's just say that it was at least 5 times as expensive in the United States because you're talking about skilled labor, welding, spot welding, putting it together. That's a tough one to make in this country because
that's a realization is like materials and clothing and anything that has high intense labor, skilled labor is just not going to be competitive. That's my claim to fame is I eliminate labor, right? I have machines working and I have reduced labor costs, so that puts me in a better spot. But Dimitry, this is why I call you the boss. How do you launch 2 great products at the same time? Plus, I'm sure you got other things going on. How do you do that? How do you fit all that in?
Well, it's kind of messed up because what ended up happening is I ended up with, it'll be nameless, but I had a meeting with somebody that's one of these kind of like, grand slam home runs. If you can get this person under your belt, you wrote your ticket. The guy sold $5 billion worth of product, in his lifetime. And I showed him the workout machine and he was like, great, I love it. And because I was doing this pitch, I said, well, let me bring this other product. And he was like, listen, you can manufacture that. I'm interested in that too. So what ended up happening is I ended up getting a tentative go with both products. And it is very funny because one day I'll be pitching the Genie cone and I'm sitting here talking to a group of people about it. And the very, very next day I'll be pitching the Twist-A-Core. And here's my advice. If you're going to invent multiple products, do everything you can to at least make them similar to each other, because you couldn't find 2 products that are more diametrically opposite than these 2 products. So you ask a question, I run a business, which is my primary way of making a living. Okay. And I opened up this business in 1992 and I've been pretty successful enough to be able to, have time and some money to be able to do these things. I also own real estate. So when you want to talk about time, remember, we talked about that. Same 24 hours in a day. That's why I get up at 4:15 and 4:30 without an alarm clock, because I just have my mind going. I get on the phone, I get on the email, I do what I got to do with China. The next thing I know, it's 7:30 in the morning. I got to take care of my security company, which is my main thing. 11 o'clock comes rolling around. I got an interview with you. As soon as I get off with this, got to go take care of my kids' college, So you definitely have to be time oriented. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that people have, regardless as to whether they're going to venture, they're going to license, they're going to manufacture in the United States, is people don't understand that the commodity that you cannot control is time, except for what you do with yours, because time is going to pass, whether you like it or not. I don't have to make that phone call to get the decal put on my seat if I don't want the decal on my seat. But you know what? You can't stop the time. So you got to learn to do that. That's why with someone like Mark Cuban, I use him as an example. This guy's got his hands into 300-400 businesses. You know, I can't imagine what his whole time orientation is like. He actually was on a video real quick. I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but he's talking about making his bed in the morning. There's a guy on the internet who's like a general. He talks about if you want to be successful, do something positive, make your bed in the morning as a start. Well, Mark's thought behind that is like, okay, it takes me 4 minutes a day times 35 years. That's going to be 6.5 weeks worth of time making my bed. I'm not going to make my bed because I could use that time elsewhere. Now, clearly he's not a person that we have to worry about being self-motivated, right? But the idea behind it is that we each have that same amount of time, and what you do with it is the difference between being successful or not. And I think that you, Chris, you got your hands in so many different things. You must have to experience that personally.
Yeah, I do. You know, I talk about Carmine a little bit about, especially in retail, you're always waiting, right? Yeah. So it's a new level of patience that I've never experienced. But having a lean background, that's part of, you know, I've been doing this for a long time now. And what I learned at BMW primarily in the 90s was how to eliminate waste and focus on what is called value. What is a customer willing to pay for? Like making a bed, you're right, who cares? It looks nice, right? But it doesn't add any value. It really doesn't. Or I talk about like in plants, when somebody's, I use an example. I only use this example because it's so real. When we launched the Super Potty Trainer, I had my son in the plant helping me. And we have this whole thing in a single piece process. So when the machine's actually closed and molding on the outside, the same operator, which has already been paid for in the quote, is putting a label on the feet in a box. There's no box at the press. I see Tyler walking across the plant. I'm like, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to get the boxes. I go, do you realize you walking across the plant, instead of bringing the boxes and having them set out at the injection mold, at the injection press site, it's costing me money. He goes, well, it's not a big deal. I go, okay, you're right. So in this case, I mean, I've done studies where people are walking a mile a day. In this case, I said, okay, you're probably wasting about an hour a day, right? I did a quick time study. I'm just going to take it from your paycheck every week. So if you're doing it an hour a day, it's 5 hours. It equates. I always put stuff back to cash. Yeah. Big companies, small, always back to cash. So every week your check's going to be short about $150 a week. He stops and looks at me. He goes, you serious? I go, yeah, I'm paying for that. I'm dead serious. Customer's not paying for that. Yep. So the whole idea is we quote on capacity, how fast we can get the throughput and eliminate all the waste. Never had a problem with them again at that point.
Of course.
But on big scales, I teach that with injection presses. When a robot comes in and pulls a part out, drops on the conveyor. Now you don't have really 2 operators per machine. You have 7 machines. You have 2 operators for 7 machines. Because now the robot's pulling it out at the right time, dropping it on a conveyor and bringing it to the individual who does the packing. So you eliminate, I mean, it's big, big money. It's millions of dollars a year.
Absolutely.
So that's how I evaluate it. And time management for me is the same thing. I evaluate it the same way.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. There's actually a case that I can tell you about, and you can appreciate this. I have a good friend of mine who's an engineer who helped me design this. He got hired to work with Hellmann's mayonnaise, and his job was to try to figure out how to get the labels to come out of the machine. Like, I'm just throwing out a number. They do 1,000 labels a minute. So his job was to try to figure out how to take the graphics and the stream and everything and pump out another 100 labels a minute. And you would say, well, you know, 1,000 labels is an enormous amount. Well, that 100 labels extra over 24 hours means that they're saving 6.5 cents on each of their cans. And with 6.5 cents times how many bottles of mayonnaise does the world have? You know, yeah. So little pennies add up to a big pile of stuff. So when you talk about an hour, factories are painstakingly designed to eliminate that waste so that when you're done with the press, that box that you want is no more than 1 foot away from you. Right. You know, and the label machine is not more than 6 inches away from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know? And that's why you take a look at Amazon. Yeah. I would love just to go in there and watch how one of those factories, you know, fulfillment centers work, because you're talking about, they probably look at things to the 100th of a second. A 100th of a second, you know, because can we do this for 100th of a second faster?
But don't forget, Toyota Production System started all of it, right? They start measuring people's reach. Like, they got the system, and I do everything in a cell, so it's all contained. But then you're actually measuring how far is this person reaching to pull the label off. How far is the roll to put the feet on? Are they able to do it in arm's length? Because it all makes a difference, definitely. So I think there's a lot to be learned what we talked about today. I mean, I really love your story, Dimitri. I'm not kidding when I call you the boss, because I'm serious. A lot of stuff going on. You have a great amount of enthusiasm, and you make a guy like me want to work with you, honestly. I mean, I love it, and you understand it. You understand what it takes. You've been living it. It's not somebody that has never done it or hasn't walked your shoes talking about it. You have. It's real. It's a life experience that some people never get to experience, and they think it's a lot easier than what it is. And we all know people walking in it, it's not. How can someone find you? If they wanted to find your product and want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Go to twistedcore.com if they want, and then they can get in touch with me that way. Twisted Core. It can also be the twist-a-core. I have the two websites merged together. twistacore.com. And I'd be more than happy to talk to certain people and help them out. It's funny because what you were saying is, management of expectations. Working with somebody that is level-headed, that's gone through the experience, is definitely beneficial, because you don't have to tell me that we're not going to make $650 million in 2 weeks. I'm looking to walk, to a step, to a run, to a sprint. You know what I mean? And people that come to me with their ideas, I have tons of friends who are like, I got this greatest idea in the world. I'm like, yeah. They're like, it does this for this. And I'm like, you have 1/10 of the population who's interested. Forget it, And then they go down the road and try to do it. And they come back to me 2 years later and they go, I wasted all my money and time. I go,
Yeah.
If you don't have a market for it, there's 3 no's. There's not enough margin or meat on the bone. I don't care what you have. 2, you may think it's the greatest thing in the world, and stop listening to your friends and your family tell you. Go talk to a stranger who will tell you this thing's a piece of crap, or it's good. And 3, have realistic expectations, because you're not going to be able to be one of the lucky ones like Mark Cuban, who just hit the goddamn lottery, with one thing and became a billionaire. It takes time, it takes effort, and I'm learning this, by having gone through 3.5, 4 years. So, Chris, listen, you got tons of experience in your field, and it comes through with how you handle obstacles and how you handle opportunities, and that's one thing that inventors, I think, don't have a lot of. They don't have a lot of self-control about what is the world looking at when they see me and see my product, because I see hyperness and I see nothing but the best. My Genie cone, it's worldwide revolutionary. No, it's not. It's a cool product that can make a lot of money if it's done the right way. Worldwide revolutionary is I've cured the viral infections that are killing this planet. That's revolutionary.
Yeah.
Right? So definitely hit on some good things. And I think that what you were talking about before, you make it in America, if you can, even if it's a little bit more expensive on the dollars up front, you will reap the benefits on every other level. Communication, frustration, problems, times, delivery, all of it is a benefit. And I really think that you have a good possibility of trying to bring a lot of products back. Some you just won't be able to, like my Twisted Core. It costs $30 in steel in the United States. That steel is $2.50 in China. So you're just not gonna be able to do it. Injected plastic molding, molds, they charge 19 cents. So we can do it for 23 cents. That's doable. So it really depends on your product. But listen, the platform that you guys put out there is wonderful for us as inventors, because, we get an opportunity to share and dream. And, if I can help and learn, it's all about learning and helping and growing, and this is a great platform. So I appreciate you guys bringing me on, and I'm thankful to be able to do it. And I enjoy it. So I want to say kudos to both you and Carmine. Just let everybody else out know it's been our 5th time. I think this is now our 5th time we've been doing this thing here. So, when Chris was like, listen, I got this guy Carmine, I was like, yeah, I know Carmine. I know him well. It worked out really nice. So,
yeah, Dimitri's the boss at this. That just to close out here, you mentioned about being a little bit more expensive. Walmart, right, the world leader of distribution, recognizes that. They did studies that said that consumers would pay 20% more to buy it made in USA. When I first started with them, they had a $250 billion initiative to get made in USA products. Now, on this next open call that I'm working with, it's $350 billion So they clearly recognize it, right? And one time Walmart was nothing but imports, like 99.9%. So they also recognize it. So to your point, 100% credibility, going off of what Walmart just said and is now doing.
Right. Yeah. So for example, and something else, Stephen Key, I'm sure you're aware of it. He does a lot of stuff. And I saw one of his episodes where they had a Walmart expert. Guy does nothing but Walmart. He's been doing it for 30 years. You want to try to get involved with somebody like that, or yourself, for example, if you have that. Like for me to try to get into Walmart, I'm starting at the bottom of the ladder and I'm crawling my way up. I would much rather hook up with somebody and team up with somebody who has that experience. And by the way, no kidding, Walmart likes this. You better figure out how to come up with $500,000 because that's your first order. Mm-hmm. And to your point, you better learn how to float that for 120 days.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, guys.
100%.
We are going to close up the show, Dimitry, as usual, man. It's awesome. I just sit back and
boss.
I just sit back and listen, man, because you lived it, you've done it, you know it. I mean, there's nothing, there's nothing we can do. It's awesome.
Oh man, if I can make your job easier, that's my goal, buddy.
Hey, if anyone can make my job easier, I'm all for it.
Sounds good. That sounds great. Hey guys, listen, let's do this again. We'll do a follow-up in a couple of months if you guys want, maybe a different topic or whatever.
Sounds great. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, very cool.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe.
Thanks, Dimitry. All you listeners out there, thank you. Thank you for listening in. Please going out to the Launch Network on YouTube. We got some great videos. These videos are out there. So anything we refer to or we're showing, you'll be able to see and watch. But you can also go out to Google Play or iTunes, download, subscribe to our podcast. It would be awesome if you do that. Leave us a review, a rating. We could certainly use the help. You could find Mr. Christopher Guerrera, social media. He is the man. He's all over the place. Send him a note, send him a question. He's all good. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Made in America with Mr. Christopher Guerrera. Y'all take care.
Guys, take care, man.